So today's topic that I wanted to talk about is the job life. So I'm basically going to tell you my job life story because I have autism and ADHD, if you haven't heard about it before. And this, of course, made job life and work life a little bit tough on me. So I want to tell you how that all was going and what I did throughout my life. Also because a lot of people are asking me, when I do a live stream, a lot of people ask me in the chat, what is your job? What is your vocation? What is your profession? And in order to just send them to a video, I thought I'll do an entire live stream only about that. So I'm going to start off with what I saw, what talents I had as a kid. So one talent I had as a kid was languages. So when I was watching something on TV that was in English, then immediately I would learn the words. I would learn how to pronounce them. I would learn the language just from hearing it. So this is basically one of the things I realized. Then also I realized that I'm very good at dancing and singing. So later on, when I made an intelligence test, they also told me you have a very high intelligence concerning kinesthetic intelligence and auditive intelligence. So these two, kinesthetic and auditive, that means anything I hear, I can say. So that is the reason why I have such an easy time learning new languages, because I have a high auditive intelligence. And the kinesthetic intelligence is the one responsible for dancing. This was why I was so good at dancing, why I could watch a choreography just one time and I could dance the choreography immediately, just from watching it one time. And that's because I had a very good auditive and kinesthetic intelligence. So the first thing I asked my parents was, could you please pay me that I can be a little bit more professional in this? Can you pay me so that I get dancing classes and maybe also classes in singing? But my parents immediately denied, and they also told me, nobody wants to hear you sing, nobody wants to see you dance. So they basically told me that I can forget about this. So I said, okay, no problem. I will take my biggest talent and just bury it somewhere, or maybe just use it for having good grades at school, maybe. In the physical classes, PE classes, and that's the first thing I realized. Also, as a kid, I was playing anchoring. So I was playing anchoring, hosting radio shows with a cassette recorder. I recorded my own voice and pretended I was a radio host and anchor. So this was also a talent, a vocational talent that I realized early on when I was a child. So when I was after high school, I finished a high school which was basically a girls' college, and I was there from age 11 to age 19. So this girls' college, we were only girls. And we had some teachers who were nuns, because this was a Ursuline convent school. It was a very good school because I had 3 languages there. I had English, French, and Spanish, and I'm very, very grateful that I had that. Also, they taught us cooking and housework, basically like sewing something, with a sewing machine. This was very practical, all things that I need later on in life. So, and then after school, after I finished high school, I was in high school for 8 years, and then I finished, did my final exam, and then I didn't really know what to do because we didn't have anything like a coach who was telling us where to go or what to do, so we were completely alone with that. So I just thought, well, I'll try applying for the radio. So I applied for the radio, and immediately the radio gave me a show. They said, yeah, okay, you're good, you're fine, we'll take you for a radio show. So they actually immediately gave me my own radio show. It was a live radio show. Each day for 2 hours, I had my own forenoon show. So that is actually quite a huge gift from the universe. I didn't know that at the time. When I was 19, I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was very uncommon for people to just get a live radio show. But they said, yeah, your voice is so good and you're so good at talking in German that we want to take you. So they gave me this live radio show. And then I did that for a while, but immediately my autism and ADHD started to become a problem because, as you know, when you have autism and ADHD, you take everyone by the word, everyone. And somebody told me, if you do this and that, you don't even need to come tomorrow anymore. So, and what I understood is that they don't want me here anymore, that I shouldn't come tomorrow. That was what I understood. So I thought they wanted to fire me. In reality, it was just a saying. They didn't fire me, but I didn't know that. So the next day I didn't show up. So of course, then they fired me. So it was all a huge misunderstanding. But back then I didn't know that I had autism and ADHD, and I didn't know that this was just a misunderstanding because neurotypicals talk very differently from neurodivergent people. So at that time, it was just a very bad negative effect on my life. But I didn't earn much there anyway, so it wasn't quite a big loss concerning the finances, but it was a big loss concerning the chance. So that was that. And then I also did something at the TV. I had a TV show too, but this was not live. This was recorded. And then between the age of 21 and 22, I went to Munich. And in Munich, I did a school which was specialized for journalism. So I was on journalism school. And on journalism school, I learned everything that I really liked. So I really, really liked that school. I absolutely was there with all of my joy, all of my pride was being at that school. I was very happy. There was a little bit of bullying because I was from Austria and the other people were Germans. And you know how that is. The Germans, they think that Austrians are just very dumb people from the mountains. So of course, there was a bit of bullying, but I didn't care because I have been bullied in my family, bullied at school. So who cares about being bullied at this journalism school? I liked what I did there, so I was just very happy. And this year there was a full-time class. So in the morning we had the theory classes, and in the afternoon we had the classes which were practical, where we learned how to edit. We did use Avid Media Composer back then, and the cameras were Betacam SP. So all of the analog stuff that's not in use anymore today. So we learned how to edit, and we learned how to do movies, but it was more analog. It was actually at the brink between analog and digital world, you know, at the brink. But we still used cassettes, I mean real cassettes in the cameras. So this is also funny because this doesn't exist anymore, you know, it's the change from the past to now, from the analog age to the digital age. And then when I had this exam done, in the end I had a diploma, I had a journalist diploma, but I realized somebody with a journalist diploma doesn't get a job. So now I was very happy that I could, thank you Raid for the rose, thank you, I saw that. So I was happy to have that journalism diploma, but unfortunately I didn't get a job. So I thought, okay, what else can I do? So I thought, actually it would be a fantastic idea to study pharmacy and to take my father's pharmacy, because if I inherit my father's pharmacy, then I can just, you know, I don't have any problem, because I don't need to search for any customers, because the customers are already there. I don't need to attract new customers, they just come because they're sick and they need me. So I was like, hey, that is actually a brilliant idea. So I did that, and I realized, oh my God, I feel so at home in studying pharmacy. I felt like for the first time, I was happy for the first time, I felt really at home and really, you know, appreciated, and I loved what I was doing, because, you know, science is something that fits super great to people with autism and ADHD, especially with autism, because science is so exact, and we love that, and everything goes after a plan. You know, you have a very exact plan, several steps that you go through, and you repeat them all the time. So it gives you a feeling of security, you know. So I really, really loved that, and I could use both my knowledge that I got from the university, and also I could immediately use it in my father's pharmacy, because of course I was also working there, and I could use all of the knowledge that I had learned there and use it in my dad's pharmacy, which was absolutely fantastic. So I really have to say that was the best time of my life, actually, between 2002 and 2015. That was the best time of my life when I was studying pharmacy. So I was very, very happy and very, very, you know, lucky, happy-go-lucky, basically. So that was that, and I had the hope that I can finish the studies, so I did my master thesis, and my professor gave me the topic of my master thesis. He said he wants me to do a thesis on which plants and alternative medicines are the best ones for anxiety and for CPTSD. So I read a lot of studies, PubMed studies about veterans who have PTSD. And I tried to collect all of that, and basically the outcome was that Rhodiola rosea, the plant, was the best for anxiety. But unfortunately at that time, in 2013, when I wrote the thesis, there weren't so many plants tested already for their anxiolytic effects, but most of them were tested for their antidepressant effect, and that was not the topic of my thesis. So I concluded that the only plant we have right now is Rhodiola rosea, and that more studies need to be done. So after my thesis was done, I was very proud, because the professor gave me a B, which is a good grade. And then I was like, hey, cool, I only have 8 more tests to go, and then I'm finally freed and I can work as a pharmacist for the rest of my life. But then the catastrophe happened. My father just said to me, okay, I'm gonna stop paying for your studies. I'm gonna stop paying you at all. I want you to basically live by yourself. And I said, well, I can't live by myself, because without the degree, without finishing the studies, I cannot work. I cannot access the job market. And if I don't get a job, I also can't pay for the studies. So I am stuck in a position where I can't do nothing at all. I can't work and I can't study. And he said he doesn't care. So that was one thing where I had to really, you know, with a kind of trauma that I really had to deal with. You know, I had to wrap my head around the fact that my father hates me, wants to kill me, wants to end my career, wants to destroy my path. And I mean, besides that trauma, you also have to get ready for being traumatized by losing your own identity, because my entire identity was based around being a pharmacist. So basically I had identity, because suddenly, you know, before people perceived me as the pharmacist, they came to me and asked me about their medication, asked me what they can do if they have any ailments. But now suddenly nobody asked me that anymore, and nobody saw me as a pharmacist anymore, nobody saw me as a scientist anymore, so nobody saw me as the identity that I actually had. So I had to learn to basically unlearn what I am, unlearn who I am, basically kill my ego, kill my identity, lose everything, and then become nothing. And when you are nothing, then you really start to wonder, well, if I'm not a pharmacist, then who am I actually? If I'm not a pharmacist, who am I? And that opens a whole new door. Hallo Dinhof Ewald. So that opens a whole new door. And then you're basically like, okay, maybe if I build this identity in my mind and in my heart and in my soul and with everything that I am, maybe then I can also be something else. Maybe I can change myself. Maybe I can turn myself into something else. So basically, I tried to become someone else. I said, okay, well, I can try to reinvent myself, I thought, because at that time I was 35. And even though I had to bury my great wish and my big dream, you know, I had big ideas of what I wanted to do with the pharmacy. You know, I had so many ideas of what I wanted to do as my vocation, but I had to bury all of my dreams. I had to bury all of my dreams and then say, okay, let's do something that I don't like. What is something that I can do which I don't like, because of course it's not pharmacy, but which I can still, you know, maybe think of doing for the rest of my life? What is something that I don't want to do and I don't like it, but I can still imagine doing it? And that was a hard question, because the only thing I ever wanted to do was be a pharmacist, you know. So I was like, what am I going to do? So what I did was, I thought, well, one of the things that's important for me is to be self-employed. I always knew I never wanted to be employed. So I said, okay, I can try to, you know, make a yoga teacher education and then try to open my yoga studio in my own home, you know, teach yoga in my own home. So I took the next 2 years because nobody hired me anyway. Nobody gave me a job anyway. So I took the next 2 years to do the yoga teacher education. So between 2015 and 2016, I did my yoga teacher education. And then after I finished, I was an RYT 500 yoga teacher, so I was ready to teach, and I taught in skiing resorts. You know, I lived in a place where there were a lot of skiing resorts, so I went to the hotels, and back then it was no problem because I still had my car, so I could go with the car to the different hotels and teach yoga there. But unfortunately, after I was about 3 years unemployed, of course I lost the car because I couldn't pay the car anymore, so I had to give up the car. And then with the poverty and having no car, of course, the possibility was gone to teach. So I said, okay, what do I do now? I wanted to open up my own yoga studio in my home. So I spent the last money that I had. It was about 7,000 euros I spent to rearrange my home. I tore out different walls from my home. I made a new floor. I bought everything that I need to teach so many people. So you need a lot of equipment. You need the mats. You need the bolsters. You need whatever. So I bought all of that. And after the 7,000 were gone and my yoga studio was ready to open, the economic chamber, the federal economic chamber, sent me the lawyers and said, we're going to sue you if you open your yoga studio because the other owners in the house, apartment owners in the house, do not want your yoga studio there, and we will sue you. So what am I going to do? I'm broke, I have nothing, I have no car, so I can't work as a freelance journalist, I can't work as a freelance yoga teacher because the car is not there. What do I do? So I said, okay, let's try this. We'll sell the apartment, and then from the money of the sales, we're gonna try to find an education that actually gets me into a job. Because right now, I still didn't have an education that gets me into a job. I had an education as a journalist, which didn't help me on the job market. I had an education as a yoga teacher, which didn't help me on the job market. And I had an unfinished pharmacy education, which didn't help me on the job market either. So I thought, if I do something else, if I reinvent myself again, maybe then it works. So God obviously doesn't like me to be a pharmacist, even though that's my big dream. God obviously doesn't like me to be a yoga teacher, even though I would have liked to do that. So what does God want? So I said, okay, I'm going to reinvent myself, going to try something else. So when I finally had found somebody who buys the apartment, and that took a long time, I'm telling you, that took a long time until I found somebody who finally gave me the money that I wanted for my apartment. Then I took that money, went to another city, and I started at a college. And at this college, I studied communication sciences. And it was actually the only thing that I could afford because it was only 2 years, from 2017 to 19. And that's the only money I had. So I made a budget for 2 years. How much can I spend each month so that it lasts for the 2 years that I'm studying? And it worked out perfectly. So between 2017 and 19, I spent exactly the amount that I wanted to spend, which was the amount that I got for my apartment sales. So I finished the master thesis in communication sciences. And I thought, okay, with that, finally, it should be possible now at age 39 that I can really get into the job market, that I get access to the job market. But unfortunately, it wasn't so. So basically, the job market rejected me again because the thing was that they said, yeah, unfortunately, you don't have enough experience. So yes, you have degrees, yes, you have education, but you don't have any experience. So if you don't have experience, how shall you gain experience if you don't get any access, right? So basically, that was, again, another thing that was a situation where I, again, didn't get any access to the job market. So I thought, how many degrees do I have to get and how many educations do I have to get before they finally give me a chance on the job market? I mean, I was 39 and I already had several degrees, you know, I already had several educations, and still nobody wanted to take me on the job market. So I was like, obviously, it's like no matter what I do, nobody wants me. Nobody wants to give me a job. Nobody wants to give me money for an education. The banks always say no when I'm asking for a loan to be self-employed. So obviously the system wants me dead. Yeah, I started to realize, okay, the system wants me dead. There is nobody out there who wants to give me a chance. There is nobody. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? No? So I did work from age 39 to age 40 because back then there was no Rona, and when there was no Rona it was still okay to get work, but unfortunately they paid me very little. Yeah, the payment was really bad. And then 2020 the Rona came, and when the Rona came, obviously it was over. Yeah, from that time on I only sit at home doing basically nothing. Okay, from 2020 to now I did nothing, zero. The only thing I did was live streams like this, you know. So basically I said, okay, what can I do now? I have several degrees, I have several educations, nobody gives me a job. It's impossible to work employed, it's impossible to work self-employed because the banks don't give me loans. What am I going to do? So I thought maybe I can try to do YouTube for money. But I realized YouTube pays you so little that you don't even get what you spend. You know, it's a very expensive hobby to do YouTube. Yeah. So I realized, okay, I spend about 1,000 per year, but I only get back 300 per year. So it wasn't even on the gaining side. So I didn't earn any money. I just lost money. So I said, okay, that doesn't work either. So I said, well, then I'll keep my hobby, but the channels will stay unmonetized, because it's no use. Yeah, because you lose anyways. Yeah. And then I said, okay, what do I do now? And the problem was the state sued me and said, the problem is you earned money and earning money is forbidden. So they brought me to court. And at court they said, we want the entire welfare money that you got back. And I said, why do you want the welfare money back if I can prove that I didn't even have any gain of it? I weren't on the plus side, you know, I only had a minus. It was just basically I lost everything. So why do you want money? Yeah, because there is a theoretical chance that you could have possibly made money. And because of that theoretical chance that is non-real, we want the entire money back from you. So I learned, okay, it is absolutely forbidden in Austria to become self-employed after you had welfare money. That's what I learned. It's absolutely by law forbidden to become self-employed after you had welfare. So I thought, what do I do now? I've lost everything. I've lost my apartment. I've lost my car. I've lost any chance to work. Nobody takes me. I mean, I had job offers, but the job offers required me to have a car and to have money for a home, and I didn't have that. So I said, what am I going to do now? I can't even take a job because I have no money. And then I realized it's over for me. My life is over. And that realization that my life is over, it took me, 43 years or something until I finally found out, oh, I get it. My life is over. So I was like, okay, well, now I can relax, right? Now I can relax because there's nothing to do anymore. If you already know that your life is over, that you will never get an employed job, that it is forbidden to be self-employed, that there is no way that you can ever make money, then you're like, fine, okay, then my life is over. So I thought, okay, the next things that are probably going to happen is that I'm going to starve somewhere on the street. So I'm going to be dead, D-E-A-D. So I thought, okay, now I have to, really go into the topic of how do I make peace with being D-E-A-D? How do I make peace with D-E-A-T-H? How do I make peace with the man with the big saw who saws you off from your body? So, or scythe, I think it's called scythe, the man in the black cloak with the big scythe. So I thought, well, how do I make peace with that guy? So I invited, D-E-A-T-H to my home. I said, okay, listen, I want to talk to you. If you come soon, if I die on the street because of being hungry, because of having no home, because of having no shelter, plus with all of my extreme autoimmune diseases, I'm probably going to be dead very soon. So how do we handle this? Can you please give me some kind of passage to the other side, which is easy, not something horrible, just something easy. Maybe God can arrange that there is something like they legalize the euthanasia for people like me who have no chance at life or something. Maybe you can do some kind of wonder so that it gets more easy for me to pass because there is no chance to live for me anyway. We already know that, yeah? There is no chance, no future, no nothing. So I said, well, I'm trying to be friends with you here. I'm trying to be, to be cool with you. And I made peace with D-E-A-T-H. So I made peace with the man with the big scythe and the black cloak. So I said, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave. I'm ready for whatever kind of D-E-A-T-H God is bringing me. Because I knew there is no more life possible here. There is no door that opens, no chances, no possibilities. There is nothing. Yeah, because I had searched everywhere and every door was closed. So I was like, okay, I am basically ready to give up this identity in a human body. Yeah? I'm ready to give up the identity of being human and to go back to my original state, which is not in a flesh-bone prison, but free, and formless. So I said, okay, I make peace with you. So that was basically the end of the story where I knew, okay, this is it. I have made peace with D-E-A-T-H, and I'm now just waiting for basically the end because I don't have to fight anymore. I don't have to search anymore. I don't have to do nothing anymore because there is nothing to do. I can just relax and wait for the end. And that's basically what I did. I relaxed into it. I said, okay, I'm fine, I'm good. And since then I just wait. And of course I hope that it's not going to be an ending which is too disgusting, but I hope that it's going to be an easy end. Something like an aneurysm while you sleep, or a stroke, or a heart attack, or something like that. Something that takes you out easily. Nothing that is taking like months and stuff. Yeah. So. So yeah, that was basically the end of the story. Since then, I sit at home waiting for D-E-A-T-H because there's nothing else to do anymore. There's nothing to search anymore, nothing to fight anymore, nothing to go against anymore. It's just basically relaxation and being fine, So easing into it.